You're listening to the Teach Better Talk podcast featuring expert educators eager to share progressive tactics to reach more students. Teach Better Talk is created by teachers and fueled by passion. Let's get started.
Welcome to episode 191 of Teach Better Talk. My name is Ray Hewart, and as always, I am with my incredibly obnoxious co-host, Jeff Gargis. Jeff, how are you?
You've used that one like multiple times, I think.
I literally don't care. You are obnoxious. I have no problem with it.
I'm beginning to think that you actually think I'm obnoxious.
Oh, you're beginning to think that? That's cute.
Yeah, I'm offended.
You know, I think we're hitting episode 200 relatively soon, and I have a feeling that we're going to change it up where you are going to start describing me because I've used all my, okay words for you that I possibly can. All right,
well, let's do this then.
I think we should.
If you are listening, DM me on Twitter or Instagram and let me know what words should I use to describe Ray, and maybe if we hit 200 and go beyond, I will use those. I said that as if we're considering not.
Yeah, are you saying we're not going on? Because we have a lot of episodes already scheduled, Jeff.
If we flip after 200 and I do start doing that, then maybe I'll use one of the words that you give me. So we'll see what words will you use to describe Ray Hewart, because anything I come up with is probably not going to be that good.
Okay, and yet we have more Team Ray shirts that sell in our swag store than anything else, so I'm pretty sure people are going to find some good vocabulary for Miss Ray Hewart. Just saying.
Anyway, speaking of swag, that leads into what we discussed we're going to talk about. We have a couple things we want to share that we just announced last week at our networking event. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about them now too. Can we share them? There was four things that four exciting things that we put out.
So usually podcast listeners, I feel like we spoil the secrets first for you, which people always get upset about because we always just tell you everything. This time, Jeff and I were good adults and we waited, and now we're telling you information after it was already announced. So I'm just proud of us. A little pat on our back right there.
Very proud.
We had 4 key announcements that we announced at our networking event, which was an insane event that we did Tuesday night on the 14th. Just a 2-hour event, talking shop, hanging out, emphasizing really 2 key pillars that we very, very, very strongly believe in, which is about building authentic connections, having a community of educators to support you, and also making sure that you have strong strategies to bring back to your classroom whenever you're ready, whenever we end up working with students again, which is hopefully incredibly soon. But we did make these big announcements. So here are the 4. We're going to first start with swag because that's what Jeff is mostly excited about. We released a new family collection over in our swag store, which I really love, Jeff. I love that we're emphasizing at the end of summer, making sure that we all unite again after some, really challenging months, after some fun in the sun with our family. Let's all come together, make sure that we remember that we're a family and we can do this as we get into a really challenging time. So I'm super excited for that new collection.
Yes, very excited about the collection.
Do you know what probably is selling the best? I mean, there were so many different things between cups and mugs and laptop stickers and t-shirts and tank tops, and holy cow.
I think the stickers are doing well. People like putting those on their laptops. I personally really like the ones that says sometimes you find your family on Twitter, or there's one that says sometimes you find your family on Instagram, because that's how we met. You and I met on Twitter. So many people that listen know us from Twitter, so I kind of like that. There's a couple different versions that all kind of allude to this idea of family and being connected and be a part of that. So I'd have to look. I don't know what's selling the best right now, but if I had to guess, I'd say the sticker, and then probably the coffee mugs do pretty well too, though. So,
I was going to say, Jeff, I know that our network is going to be thrown by this, but you and I collaborate on the designs, but you were the one who made it all come to fruition. And the coffee mugs are so cute. And this is a different design than we've done in the past. I really like this one. I personally will be getting one. So I'm just saying, loving the coffee mugs.
That's awesome. So new swag. So that's over at teachbetterswag.com. Let's do what we always do, Ray. If you head over there right now, use Podcast Talk to save 25% on your entire order. So hit that up. One of the other things we announced. Where do you want to go next? We have 3 more.
I was
And
gonna
honestly, they're all
go
kind of awesome. So
webinar. I have an order in my head. I was
yes.
gonna go
Oh, you got it.
webinar
Okay,
next.
webinar. Gotcha.
All right, do you want to talk about this massive decision that we are collaborating with, or
This
you?
this is our with Evan, right? That we're talking about.
Yes, Evan Whitehead,
Yes.
an amazing Teach Better ambassador. We love
Yes.
Evan, and he's actually a administrator outside of Chicago area, which also our guest is that we'll get to in a little bit for our Teach Better Talk podcast episode that you're listening to. But Evan Whitehead is partnering with the Teach Better team to kick off an amazing 2-week webinar. It's just going to be 4 sessions, 2 weeks long. It'll be super, super casual, really great facilitated conversation. And this group is going to meet via a private Zoom link on Mondays and Fridays. And so the hope that Evan had was to talk about creating a culture and climate conducive for navigating critical conversations for social and emotional well-being. So we decided to call it the Safe Space EDU. So I'm so excited that Evan is partnering with us to make this happen.
Yeah, I'm so pumped. He is such a good guy, so intelligent, and such a great leader. I'm really excited for this one. If you want to get into that, it's over at teachbetter.com/safe space. So that's another one. That's 2. All right, Ray, you got the order. What's the next one? What's number
Okay,
3 here?
I'm really excited for this, but this was an announcement we had that you can't actually register for yet. It's more of a like coming soon. So we had 4 total announcements, 3 of which you literally can go take action on right now. This is still in the works and will be coming
Mhm.
officially, but this was super fun to announce.
I'm excited about this one.
I know, isn't it? I like, can't even say it because I feel like this is such a big deal. So we have finally, I know you guys have been asking for so long, we have finally released the Teach Better Connected Coaching that we will be doing. And so this is a 3-tiered system. You pick whatever program fits your needs and style. And we are just further emphasizing amazing ways to stay connected and grow as an educator in a really personalized setting. So, Jeff, do you want me to go through the 3 levels that we will eventually be releasing that people can register for?
Yeah, I'll just sit over here and listen.
Oh, well, I'm just saying, I'm going to keep it vague because I know we have like big plans for when this
I'm just
launches.
excited. So yeah, like keep spilling it.
It's so
I
exciting.
love
So
it.
I'm gonna try not to share like so much that I get in trouble after this, friends. I'm so sorry. All right. First level is that we have Teach Better advisory groups coming to you. We also have Teach Better cohorts, which is our second level of support. And then our third level, that really in-depth support is going to be Teach Better personalized coaching. And so these 3 levels are going to have a lot of descriptions for you to see what's best for you. But truly, it goes back to this mindset of not only wanting to support you growing as an educator, challenging your thinking, but also this idea of doing that with people that you're building relationships with. So, whether you're in the advisory group, the cohorts, or you're getting that one on one personalized coaching, we want to make sure that you have your people, right? Like you have people that are challenging you and helping you and meeting with you constantly to make sure you're supported and texting you and calling and doing all these wonderful ways to make sure that you don't need to live in that teacher isolation and you can continue to have that family because family is important, Jeff. Love family.
Very, very much so. All
So
right, I know
fun.
number 4 because you've already done the 3. So number
Yeah.
4, I'm pumped about this one because this is a 6-week long event that we're doing coming this fall webinar series, the Teach Better Mindset Meetups. And this is starting on Wednesdays on September 30th. You got 6 weeks. Every session, every week has one session that's got 2 amazing speakers. And Ray, I'm gonna name off a couple of them, but I know I'm probably gonna. There's too many for me to just like rattle off all of them because I'm gonna forget. But you got Dr. Camilla Jones, you got C.J. Reynolds, you got Trey Gamage, you got Kevin Butler, the Kevin Butler, you got Tracy Broader, and Teach Betterflies. You got P. Sloan Joseph, Caitlin Giordano. Who else am I forgetting? You, Ray Hewert, right?
Well,
I
yeah,
think
sure,
you're gonna be
but
there. Are
we
you gonna
have
be there?
yeah, I'll be there. But we also have Rochelle Danae Poth. We have Michael Jennings coming to us to
Neil
talk about
Gupta.
movement. We have Neil Gupta. I mean, this is going to be an amazing team that is just coming together to share their insights. And a lot of these people were a part of our networking event. So we really wanted to bring back those familiar
Mhm.
faces and continue that conversation. But actually, to be honest, Jeff, a lot of these people have also been Teach Better Talk podcast guests. And they were
Yes.
so amazing to speak with when we interviewed them on this podcast, but they also have done so much with our community and connecting with them outside of this one interview on a podcast that we really want to amplify their voice even more and bring them back. So I am so stoked that this is going to be a 6-week event. And by the way, Jeff, the coolest thing with any of these webinars that we are doing is that it's all housed in our Teach Better Academy.
Yep,
So,
all recorded for you.
so even if you're somebody who's like, oh, bummer, I have a Wednesday night when I have to go to a board meeting, I'm going to miss it. Don't worry. These are all recorded. They're safe for you, lifetime access to just grow with these amazing educators. And there's such a positive family. I feel like we just list off all these great people, good people.
Yeah. Super pumped. That's the Teach Better Mindset Meetups. That is at teachbetter.com/mindset meetup. And that'll get you there. And that is open as well. So 4 big things that we announced and super pumped, right? This is cool. I'm sorry. I'm going to apologize to our audience that we didn't spill all these beans to you first.
I know.
We did it the way we're quote unquote supposed to this time. So let's get into, this was a great episode. Barbara Schneider is a university distinguished professor in the College of Education and Department of Sociology at Michigan State University. This amazing educator, amazing woman has her sheet is crazy. Her resume, I could sit here forever just going over all the things that she's done, the awards she's won. Written around 20 different books, done studies all over the world, and continues to do that. I mean, her passion for what she does is incredible. You're going to hear it when she speaks, and her the level, the depth of her knowledge and her passion for what she does and what she's trying to do is just really, really comes through in this episode. I think there's so much value here, so I'm really excited for everyone to listen. Ray, anything you want us to pull out from this episode specifically?
Well, I just feel like it was such a perfect introduction to introduce Barbara, because Barbara is like family to me, because her sister was actually like one of my mothers growing up, such a great close family friend. So this is just an episode full of not only great educational tips, but also just further emphasizing family staying connected and growing better together. So I love it. Let's do this.
I love it. With that, let's get to episode 191 with Barbara Schneider. All right, we are here and we are chatting with Barbara Schneider. And Barbara, it is so awesome to have you on the podcast. We were just chatting a little bit beforehand, and I'm super excited to now be able to share your story and everything you've got going on in education with our audience. But before we get too far into things, how are you feeling right now?
Oh, I feel great. Well, I mean, I'm a little bit, worried and concerned about the virus and the effect that it's having on families and our society. So, as good as I feel, that's always on my shoulder and in my heart. So, to all of the people who might be listening out there, who first responders and people that have had this concern like I do, I wish you health, and that every day will get better. I just have to hope every day is going to get better.
I love that, Barbara. It's so important that we continue to be there for our own families and for each other. And so thank you so much for that. I'm so excited that you're here on the Teach Better Talk podcast, because I know this is going to be an opportunity for our listeners to connect with the incredible work you're doing and continue to learn about you, as well as hopefully connect with you after this conversation. Before we get too far into kind of all the things that you do, would you mind telling our listeners about yourself? You know, how you kind of answer that very commonly asked question of what you do?
Sure. So I'm an academic. I'm the John A. Hanna University Distinguished Professor in the College of Education and Department of Sociology at Michigan State University. I'm now going to start my 15th year there. I used to be at the University of Chicago, and I got my degree from Northwestern University. So I span both public and private universities. My work and what I work the most on is really adolescent transition into adulthood. And I'm most concerned with access and equity for low income and minority students across the United States. And the work that I do is really to enhance opportunities. I have created a game so that people learn more. It's called In It to Win It. I have written 20 books about how to do this. And I am committed to every kind of thing I look at is to try and help change the structural conditions that are impinging on the lives of young people who do not have access and opportunity to high quality education.
Mm, wow. Uh, you're doing some amazing work and a lot of work. 20 books, just, I don't know if I can wrap my head around writing 20 books. That's incredible there. I wanted to go back just quickly. So you're at the University of Michigan, obviously
No,
everything.
Michigan State
I'm sorry, Michigan State. I did not mean to do that. Wow, that was not okay.
University.
Michigan State, I'm a fan of. University of Michigan, no, 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 no go there. Uh,
The University of Michigan is a great school, but and hats off to the Wolverines. But you're talking to a Spartan now,
heck,
so
I,
people know it's a Spartan.
I'm in Ohio. We recognize the Spartans. We don't the Wolverines. So you're okay. That's my fault there. I'm beat red right now, by the way. No, I wanted to touch on, so obviously everything changed back, with COVID and everything. Can you tell us how your world changed from when did the school pool decide to shut down? I know you haven't been there for a while. What was that transition like for you, and your students and your colleagues there at the university, transitioning now to fully virtual, and what's the kind of what are you looking at coming forward here? Have they decided? Are you going all virtual when you come back, or
Okay, so this is a little bit of a long answer
it's all
because
right?
there are two very different kinds of responses. So the first is that the university has done a wonderful job keeping people informed. They closed down when it was very important to close down in March and sheltered in place. We in Michigan have a fantastic governor. Governor Whitmer is just outstanding and has really been managing this extraordinarily well. The university did what most universities have done, which is basically they shut it all down. The international students had an opportunity to either leave or to stay, and special accommodations were made for the international students, of which we have several. And what has happened is that most classes switched online, which was a very good thing. Now, in a university system, of course, things are very different than they are in the elementary and the secondary schools where people are not used to working online. Here, there were all kinds of different kinds of things that happened. Graduation, of course, was online, and my one of my most outstanding students I've ever had, Christopher Klager, who is now going to Northwestern University to be a research associate in a very important lab. He had to graduate online, and we had to hold everything online. And then the other things that have happened, and then people have tried to have different kinds of celebrations. But I feel that in universities where online learning, of course, always occurs, and where we always use Zoom all the time anyway, that we are Zooming. Of course, there are days when we're Zooming, 6, 7 hours, and that does get very tiring. Being online all day long, it can be a very exhausting experience. But the other part of the story, which is that we had a major study, that's one of the things that I wanted to talk here today. And the study is basically to craft science environments for secondary school students that are exciting, that have them having and being engaged in experiences. And we designed this with the University of Helsinki. My colleague Joseph Krejcik, who is a distinguished professor and runs what's called the Create Center, he and I have worked together on this wonderful study in which students have new units in chemistry and physics to work on. So we finished our work in 2018-19. We had a treatment and control condition. That means some of the teachers got it and some of them didn't. And then the following year, the teachers that didn't get it, we were in the midst of giving it to them in 2019, 2020. and the teachers that were in the treatment group were getting the second dose. So we're very aware of what happened in March because we have surveyed our students. We have over 1,000 responses of students that then had to go online to learn secondary school science, and over 45 teachers that were involved in our study who also answered questions. So we have a very clear kind of picture of which we are in the process of trying to get one of the publishers interested enough in kind of telling the story that we've seen about just exactly what it feels like to be online as a secondary school student in a science class, especially when they have had the opportunity to do the experiential kinds of things that we are working on, where we bring and make science alive for them because they're really actually doing science. All of what we do is to have young people look at phenomena, understand it, ask questions, solve problems, do models, have experiments, write explanations. So everything is very much like that. So in the problems that we see in many of our schools, not all of them, is that this happened so fast. And I don't think that a lot of people understand how really quickly teachers and school districts had to scramble to move from, 1 week they're teaching and then the next 2 weeks their schools are closed and they're online. So that transition, it's not that teachers don't know how to use technology, they do. And they all are, people are, for the most part, very technologically savvy. They're not technologically savvy, though, about teaching all of their classes online. So all of your classes online, especially if you're a secondary school teacher, and you can have as many as 150 kids, and you have different classes that you're teaching, different preparations that you have. Can you imagine what that's like for someone? And then if you're an elementary school teacher, what that might be like for you. So the speed at which this went on was really quite dramatic. And teachers, of course, didn't have instructional material for their online classes. They had to create those, and they depended very much on materials that were out there. We had offered to our teachers that we would be happy to share our materials and work with them on being able to offer as much online that we possibly could to support them. And we were really very happy that we were able to do that. But the most, I suppose, positive thing that came out of all of the different kinds of questions that we asked to both our teachers and our students was, in fact, that the students said they can't wait to get back to doing science. Now, you have to think about this because science for chemistry and physics, which are benchmark kind of gateway, if you don't do well, I mean, these are the courses that kind of like really make a difference in whether or not you get to go to a competitive college or university. So, chemistry and physics are the real gateways here. And lots of times these courses, especially today, are taught with a lot of memorization, a lot of textbooks, and a lot of video. And the work that we do is very different. It is hands on learning, but not just building projects. It is principally driven, and it's driven around the next generation of science standards and the framework for K 12 education that was developed by the National Research Council. So essentially, what we are trying to do is to have certain performance expectations that actually teach students about different kinds of phenomenon and have them figure out and be, you might call it inquiry based, discovering. And for our purposes, we like to talk about it as sense making. So the students, they were all very quick to say they can't wait to get back, that they've enjoyed it so much. They really like the models and doing the experiments, and that they really thought that that was something that they would very much like to do. Another very important thing, and this is to parents out there and to any of your listeners, and that one of the other things that gave us real hope was that these young people who are juniors and seniors were looking forward to the next part of their life. So it wasn't the case that they weren't optimistic, that they weren't ambitious still, that they have hope for the future. And if they have hope for the future, that certainly helps us have hope for the future. So, if there anything else that you want to ask me about, I'm more than happy to tell you. Were the teachers frustrated? Yes. Were the students frustrated? Were they stressed and anxious? Yes, they were. Were there students who don't pay attention? Of course. Are there problems with bandwidth and Wi-Fi and people not getting on? Yes, of course that happens. But if we have to go to more online in the future, I think that right now is the time that we really need to invest in the people that are doing interesting things in science to be able to create different kinds of experiences online that can be experiential for both young children and for secondary school students.
Yeah, that's so true. I think you're absolutely right that now's the time to be. We got to be investing in that to think through that. I love all the information you gave us there. The work you're doing is so important for figuring out how we can move forward and how we can be bring kids back or bring the experiences to them. So I really appreciate you sharing so much of that there. I want to ask you, one of the things that we ask almost all of our guests here is to tell us a story about a time they've had a failure or a challenge in their life. And I think when someone talks to or hears from someone like you who's had a long career, a distinguished career, 20 books, all this experience, I think sometimes it's hard for us to think, man, I wonder if Barbara's had any failures or any struggles in her. She's done so many amazing things. So I love asking this type of question to someone who's had a great career like you. Can you share a time that you've had a challenge, a struggle, a failure in your life and your career, and tell us what happened? How did you overcome that, and what did you take away from that experience?
Okay, so when I was a youngster and I was very, very sick, and there weren't any beds, and I was hospitalized. And so I spent 6 weeks on a welfare ward where I was the only white child. And this was a time when they were dismantling the iron lungs because we had solved the polio crisis, and it was a very different experience for me. I missed a huge part of high school, and when I came back to high school, some of my teachers said, "Well, how are you ever going to pass? You missed most of the semester." And I didn't fail, but I certainly did not set the world on fire when you have to make up a half a year. And also not being with your friends and spending, a half a year in and out of a hospital in a place where you were with children that had nothing like the experiences that you had had as a privileged child growing up. You really learned a great deal about yourself and about the schooling conditions that other people have. The consequence of all that is that it took a long time for me to get healthy and well, and that impacted where I went to undergraduate school. It also had a huge impact on what I saw as an ambition for myself. Luckily for me, I've always been interested in education, and I found out that I really was much more interested in solving the problems and solving big problems. I was a school teacher, and I suppose a fairly decent one, but I really wanted to learn more about how I could have a huger impact and do more for the young people that I spent all that time on that ward with. And so it really kind of changed my life and my experiences. Now, once I started on the path of being an academic life is not an easy life. There are lots of disappointments. Your papers don't get published. You don't get promoted the way that you expect that you would. You look for a job that you don't always get. And I had the misfortune of having some of the people that I think, writing the best book I had, unfortunately died because of a heart condition when he was in his 40s. And that certainly was by far one of the most difficult situations that I encountered. And it took a while to get myself back up, able to talk about the ambitious generation and to deal with putting my life back into the academic stream of high productivity. So I think that of all the things that happened, one was this unusual experience I had as a child, and then second, when my colleague David Stevenson unfortunately died, and that really was a big change. And then finally getting my life back together and going full steam ahead.
It's never easy to share about a failure, but I mean, you've had so much success since that point. You've done so many things to positively impact education. We're so appreciative of that. I do want to know, and this might sound like a silly question because I think you've alluded to it in some of your stories, but what really has you excited about education right now? I mean, you're doing so much. I have to know, like, in terms of what really fuels your fire, what's driving you right now in the work that you're doing?
What drives me right now in the work that we're doing is that we actually increase the academic science performance of all students across all racial and ethnic groups and income groups. Now, you have to understand how important that is. That of all the things in my life I've ever done, to be able to tell you that I can have that kind of an effect across the whole spectrum of students that we're looking at is really remarkable. I mean, we had students, who, of course, didn't want to take science, who had struggled with science courses and biology and earth science, and then came into these more difficult kinds of environments. And sure enough, we were able to reach them as well. If you say to me, what am I the most excited about? I could start just yelling and screaming, oh my gosh, this works. This really works. Get those kids opportunities to have experiences in school, make it real for them, learn and teach them how to be scientists, but not by having a scientist stand there. Let them do the work of scientists. And that, to me, that's the most exciting, most wonderful thing that could happen. And to be able to see that for all kids, all students, it is really teenagers who are not the easiest to motivate. I was in this one classroom in California, and the teacher said to me, well, Barbara, if you want to see how much the kids are enjoying this. And then he showed me one of the students in the class had made videos of all the different experiments that they had done. And you had this long video of all this time that they had spent in this classroom learning these different units and basically all the different experiments that they had. And this is what excites me because, as I said, my life is to try and make things better for young people, especially young people who just don't have the opportunity. And it's not that they don't want the opportunity. The problems are structural. The problems are not because teachers don't care, but we have resource issues, real resource issues that we've got to change. One of the problems that they had here in this places that we were at, not all the kids had computers. Now, how can you not have a computer? And think about it. People needed multiple computers in their households, and we had some young people that didn't even have a computer. They had no Wi-Fi access. In the United States, one of the wealthiest countries in the whole world, and we don't have computers for all of our kids. That's just awful. In Finland, what did the president of Finland do? Now, granted, they're a smaller country, but the very first thing that he did with the virus is they went out and they made sure that every kid had a computer and every kid had Wi Fi access. We have got to start thinking like that for our children.
Oh, so important. So important. It's interesting because question 5 always has to do with advice, and you've shared so much advice that I'm confident this will just be an additional opportunity for you to point out something that we can continue to do to strive to be better for ourselves, for our students, for our communities, everything in between. But if you had to pinpoint one piece of advice, and truly this could be for a new teacher, for a veteran teacher, you choose, anybody listening, what's the one piece of advice you would give to an educator living right now, to really ensure that they're reaching all of their learners, K-12?
The most important thing that I can say is that if you want to engage your students in school, the most important thing is to give them questions that are meaningful and relevant to their lives. That if we do not reach people with questions that are meaningful and relevant to them, we're going to miss the boat. And that means that we have to be culturally responsive. That means that we have to know that every life matters. We have to be there for everyone. And that is the most important piece of advice I can give anybody. Take people and ask them about their lives. Make it relevant to them, make it meaningful to them, because then they're not going to want to listen if it's not. They're not going to pay any attention. They're just not going to care about forces in motion unless forces in motion means something about what happens to a car when it crashes. I mean, we can't just basically talk to people from textbooks. We have to talk to them about their own lives. And I have one other thing that I learned from Finland that I really want to stress here. The one thing that the Finns have that I wish we certainly had more of is they really do feel that their most important resource that they have are the people of their country, the human capital. So for them, the education experience and the teachers that are there in Finland, they're respected because they're understood to be the drivers of this opportunity to enhance human capital. And human capital is what we're about too. And we've just got to have our teachers, we've got to learn that just like we're doing right now with first responders and people that are there in these very difficult situations, our teachers are going to be facing those same kinds of situations in 6 weeks. We have to be there to support them and to help them. That's our role as parents and society. We have got to stand by our teachers and help our teachers and make sure that they're safe and that the environments are safe for their children and themselves.
Hmm. Important advice and important message. I appreciate you sharing that. I want to get to our 6 questions that we're going to throw at you really fast. But before we do that, beforehand, we were talking, and you were going to be so generous to give away 2 copies of your newest book. Um, can you give us the title of that new book? I want to make sure I don't say it wrong.
Sure, it's called Learning Science: The Value of Crafting Engagement in Science Environments, published by Yale University Press, 2020. It came out in January.
I
And
love it.
I am so appreciative because with the virus, all of the publicity that was lined up, we were not able to do. So
Yeah.
this is wonderful for me.
So let's get Barbara is been super awesome and giving away 2 copies. So here's how you can get it. Get on whatever your favorite social media channel is. And Ray, I'm gonna throw this out. Hopefully you approve. A lot of times, Barbara, what happens is I give like way too like my way of someone to get it is very complex. So I'm gonna go simple. Just tweet whatever you want to tweet. Just tweet why you love teaching science and hashtag teach better, hashtag teach better talk, and tag us. We'll find someone. We'll let Barbara know who that is, and we'll get 2 copies out to you. But Barbara, really appreciate you doing that. That's super cool. I know our audience appreciates that a whole lot. So, all right, let's have some fun with these next 6. So here's the challenge here is that I'm going to throw these 6 questions at you. Your goal is to answer each one in 15 seconds or less. Are you up for it?
I'm sure, of course, I'll try.
All right, here we go. What is one ed tech tool you cannot live without?
Probably Zoom at this point right now, unfortunately.
Ooh, yeah, that's pretty accurate. What's Give us a book you're reading right now.
I just finished Becoming by Michelle Obama, which I loved. I am also reading Against Empathy by Paul Bloom and 100 Years of Solitude by Garcia Marquez.
Great. And who do we need to follow on social media today?
I always like to follow Sanjay Gupta because I want to hear what's going on with the virus.
I'm good with that. Give us a good YouTube channel or website for educators to check out.
Well, I suppose the Learning Network or Teachers Pay Teachers. Those would be two that come to mind.
And give us a daily, weekly, or monthly routine every teacher should get into.
I think today we just have to really be on top of the news and we really have to be on top of the science as it relates to the virus and as it relates to children, particularly.
And lastly, what is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
Try your hardest and pick yourself up no matter what comes your way.
I
And just
love it.
keep on trying. And
Love it.
I'd like to give that to Carol Dweck because she really understands what it means to have a growth mindset.
Oh, perfect. See, Barbara, you were able to share so much with us. We are so appreciative. You've given us not only things that we need to continue to think about, but just further emphasize the importance of so many important topics that I know on the Teach Better team we do work with and just really wholeheartedly believe in that real world application and trying to give students relevancy and truly understanding what is the why behind the content is so important. So I really, really appreciate it. I'd love to have our listeners continue to connect with you not only through all the books that you continue to write and publish, but also just to continue conversations around how we can be better. Would you mind sharing with our listeners kind of how they can stay connected and any kind of ways that they can continue to connect with the information you share with your network?
Sure. So my email address is bschneid at msu.edu. And I try very hard to answer my emails. And so I'd be happy to connect with people through email. That would be the best way to connect right now.
And you can find all the links and all the resources and everything we talked about in this episode over at teachbetter.com, as well as really important links for connecting with Barbara and keeping that conversation going. So head over to teachbetter.com for all of that in the show notes. Be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And if you can give us a rating and a review, we'd really appreciate that as well. And let's take this just one step further. Think of just 3 of your colleagues who need to hear these amazing stories and connect with these amazing educators and share this podcast with them. Barbara, this was great. I really, really appreciate you coming on. So much information in this episode, so much passion when you speak. I just love it. I'm so excited for other people to hear this and connect with you. Just a huge thanks from myself and Ray. Thank you for coming on and spending some time with us.
Thank you. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And I certainly enjoyed it. And let's, give it to our teachers because they deserve it. And they're going to be faced with quite a lot of challenges this coming year. So thanks again.
Absolutely. All right. With that, and until next time, let's get out there and let's teach better.